Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, and I'm so excited because I've just gotten in a shipment in the mail that will revolutionize the way that I display minifigures, and that shipment is from Brickshell. So what is Brickshell? Brickshell is a company that manufactures some of the best Lego minifigure wall displays that I've ever seen. I cannot wait to take a look because if you know me, I love displaying my minifigs on the walls, but if you also know me, you know that some of my displays are a little bootleg. A lot of times it's just barely managing to screw a base plate into the wall or trying to hang something in a very precarious manner. And Brickshell is actually one of the leading manufacturers of Lego display cases. I cannot wait to showcase what they've sent me today because we have a lot of really cool items to showcase, and they have so many different cases available. The variety is insane, and there may be some special Bionicle ones coming your way very soon, so definitely stay tuned to the channel if you want to see some special Bionicle display cases as well. But now, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at how Brickshell has revolutionized how I plan to display my Lego minifigures on my wall. So I just got in this gigantic package from Brickshell and I cannot wait to open it up and check out what's inside. Okay, so this is my latest package from Brickshell. I can't wait to actually get these on my wall. As you can see, I've gotten some Clone Trooper specific wall hanging display cases. They're really nicely packed. These are really well done boxes. And then I got this gigantic 80 count wall hanging minifigure case. I'm so excited because this is kind of the perfect case for me that I really need. And I actually think there's even more in here. There's another 80 count case as well. So I just know it is time to get started. Let's take a look at what my minifigure wall looks like right now. So here are my minifigure wall displays, and I literally just recently refreshed these, but hey, you know what? This is about as good of a time as any to basically just create a ton of new displays that are basically laid out better with full-on cases for them as well, which is going to look so good. Now, obviously, I got a couple of Clone Trooper specific ones, which is great because my current Clone Wars display and Troops display kind of merges all different eras of Star Wars. So you've got Clone Troopers and Stormtroopers and First Order Stormtroopers, so it's going to be really cool to actually separate all of these out. And as for the other minifigure case, well, the possibilities are endless. It's two different 80 minifigure cases, so maybe I could do something with Ninjago or potentially something with Lego Marvel because I've got a lot of the minifigures here already. I will have to look around and see what will look really good in a case and feel really special. I can't wait, but let's start with the troops, the boys. Opening these up here, you can see that these are really nicely sealed. I cannot wait to actually see what the clones look like inside of them. And these are really well produced. There's some nice instructions for how to assemble everything. And then here you can see the different components that come in the case themselves. The packaging is really clean, and this looks really well produced. Let's put it together and see what it looks. Look at some of the pieces. They use genuine Lego studs, which looks really, really clean and nice. And the connection between the pieces as well is really easy. It's just a very simple press fit with the lid of the case coming on via magnets, and let's put it together. So here's what it looks like fully assembled, and the case actually is just magnetic, so it actually just snaps on magnetically. If you want to go ahead and attach the front of it, it's very, very clean, but let's get our boys in there first. And with one last incredibly satisfying click, the cases are all done, and I cannot wait to dive into more detail because these are absolutely amazing. Okay, so here they are. These are the new Brickshell cases on my wall. Now, what I have done is I've used 3 out of the 4 cases for pretty much Stormtrooper and Clone Trooper focused displays. And obviously that there you can see that they're really spaced out. They're really nice. Every single minifigure is given a spot to shine. And I've taken the last case of 80 figures and basically applied it to some of my Lego Castle figures. This isn't every single one, but it's the ones that fit in the case that made sense. Yes, you can actually fit big figs inside it, which was a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. It doesn't fit every single big fig, and some of them the heads are a little too big, but honestly, I wasn't expecting this to fit anything other than standard minifigures, so it was absolutely a treat to be able to factor those in, and they look really good in the case as well. Now, in terms of the way the cases work, I felt that putting them together was surprisingly very, very solid. Typically, when things are laser cut, you don't really know what to expect when it comes to the tolerances of attaching and assembling the cases, but I'm pleased to say that the actual assembly of the cases took me only around 10 to 15 minutes for all 4 of them, because they just came together so easily. It was very intuitive. The joints are incredibly strong, and it just stays together. Now, in terms of opening and closing the cages, thankfully, the actual fronts of them are just attached on magnets here, so you can kind of open up, remove the magnets, and then they just easily just pop back in there, which is really nice. Leaving this case open for a second so we can take a closer look at what the minifigures look like inside the case itself. Again, as you can see, they're using literal Lego studs inside the case, which is really nice and definitely adds to the very professional feeling of this. You are attaching your minifigures onto actual Lego studs. So for those who really care about just making sure there's no damage to the legs, this is going to be the perfect condition that you would expect. And the spacing is really nice. Honestly, for me, I'm used to packing things in a lot tighter, and mostly that is kind of a function of necessity. I really just have to pack in things very, very tight on my walls because, well, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this and still have all the wall real estate I have to add more stuff. However, this was actually a pretty nice breath of fresh air because this is a much better way to actually display minifigures. It feels that they're a lot more spaced out, which is nice, and I just felt really satisfied having it all come together and see all of the different collections of troopers all individually packed together as one. Again, the case right here just can pop open and shut, and it's super, super easy just to pop it on. You kind of just line it up. You don't even need to line it up that carefully, and it just pops on automatically. It is very, very easy to magnetically open and close it. No screws, no hinges or anything like that. It's just all magnets, which is very, very satisfying to open and close. Now, for those who know me, I have been a holdout on getting cases for my Lego minifigure wall displays for a number of reasons, and most of that is because, well, to be completely honest, I know that as soon as I get some cases, I'm gonna want to convert every single one of my displays into a separate case, and that is a monumental undertaking. But most importantly, one of the advantages that I will say as to displaying minifigures without cases is you can get a little bit more loose with the way that you actually want to style your designs. Let's say I want to put this larger scale Iron Man figure in. Well, in a case you can't really do that, but here I can slot it right into where the armors line up. The same go for putting in Giant Man and other non-traditionally sized figures, even other big figs. It's just a lot more easy and versatile to make your wall displays out of actual Lego pieces because, well, if it's Lego, you can kind of build them to be exactly what you want them to be. A display like this, for instance, would be impossible with a case, but I really wanted to showcase some really nice exclusive Lego items, and that's why I used a standard base plate, and especially that goes for Ninjago, where a lot of minifigures are non-standard. You've got ghost tail figures, people with jetpacks, you've got spider-legged figures, a ton of snakes, a lot of stuff that just wouldn't really make sense in a standard case. However, there are themes like Star Wars, and especially with Clone Troopers, where it actually makes total sense to use a case. You're not going to really see a big fig Clone Trooper or any sort of non-traditional design for these. Pretty much they are just standard minifigures, which is why it made total sense for me to actually start off my case collection with stuff like this. And the extra case was just kind of a nice bonus that I was able to use for some castle minifigures, and it would be really cool to eventually bring over all of my castle minifigures onto a different case, but maybe that's a video for another time. What I will say is that obviously there are benefits to actually making your own Lego mounted wall displays. I've put out some tutorials on how that works. But the huge benefit of the case is, well, to be honest, it saves you a lot of time. The time it takes for me to make a wall display like this, or a wall display like this, is hours and hours and hours of building, of making sure that it actually works, is stable with engineering. It's actually attaching and finding and sourcing all of these different plates and bricks together. And ultimately, it is a lot of work to make a custom Lego mounted wall display, which if you don't have the exact right colors, honestly, is never really going to look as good as a case. Take some of my other wall mounted displays here, for instance, where as you can see, I'm actually starting to run out of some pieces of the same color for some of these particular displays. Whereas here you've got, if you look closely, the background just doesn't quite match up with some of them. Like I'm using brown plates and black plates and blue plates here and there, like dark gray and light gray. And you don't really have those problems when you actually just have a really nice case. The other reason as to why I've typically been a case holdout, now to be honest, I've gotten a lot of offers from many Lego case companies out there, and I've turned down almost every single one, is, well, to be honest, I've always felt that the cases were something that I wanted to maybe try out, but not necessarily dedicate a lot of time to. But I'm happy to say that after speaking with Abe, the owner of Brickshell, I actually really gained a bigger appreciation for displaying minifigures with cases. I actually really appreciate the way they look right now. I think it looks so cool just having it on my wall. And most importantly, The shipping times are really fast and they're pretty affordable, especially because they are manufactured here in the US where I'm based. Now, if you are based in the UK or maybe based in Europe, this might not be the product for you because obviously these are made in the US, so they are most convenient to US based buyers, whereas especially a lot of the other leading Lego case brands are shipped internationally. So that means you have to pay a lot for shipping and have to wait a really long time for them to get here. What I will say is that in about a week of kind of deciding to do a video on these, the cases arrived and I know that they can actually be shipped in even less time if you want. So this is definitely the fastest option and one of the easiest options for snapping together. Now, the really cool thing about Brickshell is that it's run by Abe, who also does a lot of work in terms of making official signs for hotels and companies. He literally puts together a lot of legitimate signs for those businesses, and because of that, he has the equipment in order to manufacture these really high quality magnetic seals for the cases themselves. A lot of case brands do not actually have this functionality because they just simply don't have the processing power to be able to make something as clean as snapping open and shut. But because Brickshell is using machines and types of materials that are typically used for actual industry-grade signs and cases, this is a lot easier for them to mass manufacture, where you can just take a single panel like this with magnets on the end and very easily just take it in front of your case and snap it shut. You just kind of have to line it up, and there you go. The entire thing snaps shut. It is that easy. Now, there are a couple of different options here, and one thing I did want to honestly talk about is price, because these cases are not cheap like most cases out there. If you want a display that doesn't have a background, like these ones have obviously the Star Wars Clone Troopers background on it, a typical case that is this size will set you back around $60. This size with 40 minifigures will set you back around $80. And then the 80 minifigure cases are even more expensive, clocking in at around $145 for the 80 minifigure cases. Obviously, if you have custom printed backings, it becomes even more expensive. And that's really where the cases can start to really add up, especially if you're like me and you want to display all of these minifigures and really just deck out your entire collection in specialized cases. This may not be the most affordable option, but I am happy to report that this is, in my experience, the highest quality option. While I haven't actually used any other cases myself in my own collection, I've been to other people's homes with cases. I have actually seen a lot of cases at conventions and used Lego stores. And these ones definitely had at least the best opening mechanism that I'm really happy with compared to a lot of cases out there. It's just so satisfying and clean to literally pop a panel off and pop it back in. And it's really special that they literally are using Lego studs to attach the minifigures to the case itself, which is really special. These are actual sourced Lego studs, which is really nice to see. And I'm a big fan of the way that they actually incorporated legitimate Lego pieces into the cases themselves. The only downside for somebody like me is that, well, they are spaced out a lot more than I normally space minifigures. If you look at the way I normally space minifigures, I typically do only one stud in between each minifigure, and again, that is purely out of necessity. I really just need to do this in order to survive and have all of these minifigures and crazy wall displays on my walls, but the cases give them a little bit more space. I would say about 2 studs in between each figure. There's a lot of gap space on the sides, and because of that, they're just a lot nicer in terms of the layout. Like, as you can see, this is a much cleaner display than something that's really crammed together like this, where it's hard to make out the individual minifigures. Here you can see and highlight every single one of the figures, but it does come at a space cost. All of these clone troopers used to fit in one single white frame, this exact size. All of my clone troopers and stormtroopers fit in the same frame, and now they basically took a multitude of different frames to be arranged, and then I still needed to draw from my other collection of like IKEA frames and make custom base plates to have the overflow, because obviously you're spacing them out a lot more by doing something like this. However, for me, and I think for most collectors out there who maybe don't have this many minifigures they need to display, I would say it's pretty worth it to actually display them in something really nice like this, because I feel like the presentation of this minifigures themselves is just so much nicer than what I have right now, where I kind of have a hodgepodge of different brick building built frames, which are good for practical purposes and maybe will look good from a distance, but up close, they really do fall apart. There's some irregularities in the way that I have certain studs sticking out of one piece or another, and I just really like how clean and neat these cases feel. And if I one day ever open up my Lego museum that I've been saving up for, I definitely would want to place my minifigures in cases like these. So going back to price, do I think these cases are worth it? Well, for what you get, absolutely. I would say that I am more than willing to pay that price, even if I hadn't received these copies for free. I can honestly say that I feel like the prices are worth it for what you pay, but I will say that you do need to actually ask yourself, is this something that's worth it for me and for my own collection? I always try to give as honest as possible of a review here, and I do want to say that not everybody will want cases. Cases are not for everybody. I would say they're really only for the diehard collectors who really want to preserve and showcase and highlight their minifigures in an expensive but very, very well put together display. Again, if you just want to play with your minifigures, or if you don't really care about the presentation, these are not for you. These are for collectors who like to display their models, who really take pride in actually showcasing them in wall displays. Then this is something I would suggest you consider. But again, you really have to sit down and figure out, is the additional cost per case worth it for you? For me, as a diehard Lego collector wanting to one day open up a museum, yeah, I would say it is very worth it for me to eventually convert all of these into wall display cases, but I also will recognize that, well, I'm not everyone. In fact, my opinions probably don't reflect the average Lego buyer. And for the average Lego buyer and consumer watching this video, I would just recommend you look around the website. Hopefully this was a helpful video in seeing how these cases look like on display for you to really make your decision as to whether or not this is something that is worth it for you to invest in. For me, I love these cases, and I would love to keep on doing videos showcasing them. I think it'd be really cool if they eventually went on to making, say, Ninjago specific cases, or hear me out here. What if they made a Bionicle specific case? Now that would really be amazing. But for now, I'm really happy to display my Clone Troopers and Castle minifigures in these, and I can't wait to see more because these wall-mounted minifigure displays are just barely scratching the surface of what Brickshell actually has to offer. Again, I recommend you check out their website linked in the description below because they've got some really cool stuff here, including an entire wall display dedicated to the Speed Champions cars, which I currently have displayed on my wall like so, but I think it would be so cool to actually display them in a wall-mounted case with the drivers of the cars next to them. It just looks so cool to have that, and that's definitely next on my list to do a review on because that looked absolutely amazing. Overall, that pretty much sums up our look at these specialized Brickshell cases. Do let me know down in the comments, what do you think of these? Do you use Lego cases? And if so, which brand do you use? This will probably be the brand that I will continue using for my own cases, just because I do like it so much. I really do like the owner as well. We were able to have a great conversation, and I learned a lot about what goes into making these cases and the amount of effort that goes into designing them, manufacturing them, and tooling them. And I really love how they look on my wall. But of course, I do want to hear your thoughts as well. So for those who maybe own one of these cases, or if you own a different kind of Lego case, let me know what your experience has been and if you feel these are worth the price. Alright, and with that, we have summed up our look at some of Brickshell's amazing Lego cases. You can check them out linked in the description below. This is super cool to see. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and be sure to like and subscribe for even more Lego news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks so much, and bye for now.